Welcome to Equipping Leaders, a podcast where I share and discuss resources, tools, and information to equip leaders to build creative, cohesive teams through culture and leader development. Welcome to the Equipping Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Natasha, and today I'm going to talk about motivation and motivators. Motivation is the reason for behaving a certain way, and everybody is motivated by something. So it's valuable to understand what motivates you and what motivates others. It's also important to acknowledge that motivation is what gets you started and can help keep you focused, but it does not actually do any of the work that gets you to where you want to be. That's where that hard work and discipline actually start to get things done. So when we talk about motivation in the workplace, we have to be very thoughtful because people are not all motivated by the same things. A motivator for one person can be a demotivator for another. So we could talk about all these different concepts of motivation, but what I'm going to do is, since there are so many motivators, I'm going to break down the 7 motivators identified by John Maxwell in his book, The Leader's Greatest Return. And those 7 motivators are purpose, money, recognition, autonomy, progress, relationship, and mastery. As we go through these, it's important to remember that there is no judgment wrapped around these. So if you are motivated by money or recognition, that's just where you are right now. And motivators are going to change throughout your life and throughout your career. And there are the light and the heavy sides to each motivator. So we're motivated by what we're motivated by, and that may change over time depending on our life circumstances. So there's no reason to get wrapped up in who is motivated by what and what the bigger meaning behind that is. It's really just about what is your motivator? What is motivating the people around you? So let's dive into the 7 motivators. So the first one is purpose. And people who are driven by purpose are driven by their efforts meaning something bigger than themselves. An excellent example of purpose as a motivator is Viktor Frankl, who survived 4 Nazi concentration camps. And his purpose was to survive, to find his family, and to share his experience with the world. Frankl later discovered logotherapy, which is the search for purpose and meaning, and that's what empowers a person to endure and survive hardship and suffering. So from these events, he had this purpose, and that purpose was what motivated him to stay optimistic and keep moving forward and get to that end game. The next motivator is money. People who are motivated by money are driven by earning more, maybe by bonuses. Their ledger could be considered more of a scorecard. So this is not making money at all costs or doing anything nefarious to get money. It just means that making more money or paying off debt is a motivator. So the next motivator is recognition. And recognition is when you're driven by being awarded or even just acknowledged for different efforts or different things that you've done. This can be striving to gain recognition in a certain area, or it can be to be acknowledged as an expert in a certain field. So there's a lot of different ways that recognition can play out as a motivator. Next, we have autonomy. And people who are motivated by autonomy are driven by working on their own and doing their own thing. It allows some people to be more creative, so they want to work in that space. People who are motivated by autonomy are going to be very stifled by being micromanaged and people who are checking in on them. That's just not how they're able to operate. So their motivator is to maybe do these other tasks that get them to the place where they can be autonomous. Next, we have progress. People who are motivated by progress are driven by making progress or gaining ground in an area. This can be a linear projection, something that they have seen to work or have been told works to get to where they want to be. Maybe they've laid out this progression for themselves, but moving along that path is what motivates them. Next, we have relationship. People who are motivated by relationship are driven by connection because that is what they value the most. They want to build a network and they want to build people. And an excellent example of this is John Maxwell, where we got these 7 motivators from. And John Maxwell has spent his life empowering leaders and adding value to them through his work and through a number of different companies. So as he develops new people through what he calls the John Maxwell team, he calls those people the legs of his legacy. So he's all about those relationships, all about that connection, and making sure that with each connection and with each relationship, value is passed back and forth. The last motivator that we have is mastery. And people who are motivated by mastery are driven by becoming a true expert in their field and providing their strengths to projects. So this is not just professional mastery, but personal mastery over themselves, over their mind, over their emotions. It includes all of that. Oftentimes, this mastery is attained for its own sake. They don't need to be recognized by other people for this or need to be internationally known. That would fall more into that recognition motivator. But mastery is mastery for its own sake. So as leaders, there are a couple things that we can do with this information. So the first is for ourselves. For ourselves, let's consider these 7 motivators, and on a scale of 1 to 10, rate how much you identify with each one. And understand that that will adapt over time. Maybe you'll go through all 7 and maybe recognition is the highest one now, but a year from now it could be mastery, or it could be money, or it could be a number of things as your life evolves. But just take an honest look at all 7 and see where you rate in all of those on a scale of 1 to 10. And then for our teams, we want to take the time to get to know our team members so we can find out what motivates them. When you earn the trust of those around you, they feel like they can be more transparent with you about their motivators. And then when you learn what motivates people, you can not only get the best from them, but you can give the best to them. Right? A reward is only a reward if the person receiving it views it as a reward. Otherwise, it's okay, it's a thing that happened. You want to make sure you understand what motivates people so that you really can empower them the best way in the workplace. Thank you for listening to the Equipping Leaders podcast. You can follow me on Instagram at novel_Natasha or on Twitter at Natasha Cheyenne. Please join me next time for more insight and resources to equip leaders.